Each other. Crowds going crazy as there's no flag right on the Saints sideline.
The NFL season has been over for about a month now, and things are now focused on the offseason with trades, signings, firings, and of course, the anticipation for the season to come in the fall. There is little doubt that the NFL has gone through its hardest season yet thanks to the pandemic and players opting out of the season at times rather than risking infection, so they're hoping the next season will go much more smoothly. But rarely does that ever happen, because there are always embarrassing moments to be had. So allow us to show you the most embarrassing moments in NFL history. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel. Number 8. Pandemic Protocols. This past season of the NFL, they had to be monitored heavily because of the global pandemic. Teams were instructed to follow very strict rules in order to go and be safe. And sure enough, a lot of teams failed, including big-name teams like the Patriots and the Browns, who did play a playoff game without their coach due to him actually getting infected. But the biggest rule-breaking moment that arguably affected a team happened to the Denver Broncos, because not one, not two, but 3 of their quarterbacks broke the protocols during a practice where they were supposed to wear masks, and thus they were prohibited from playing in the next game. Now, if you can't tell, most teams don't have more than 3 quarterbacks on their roster. As such, they paid a guy with previous football experience about $30,000 to come and suit up for one game. He threw the ball 7 times and made 1 completion. That just went to show how sad certain athletes can be, because those quarterbacks knew the protocols and yet totally broke the rules, and their team paid the price and were embarrassed as a result. And so was the league, obviously. There was more though. Whole facilities were shut down, games had to be postponed and more because players wouldn't stay safe. Thankfully, next season we won't have an issue with vaccines coming out and now being distributed, but there was a time when the NFL feared having to shut down for the season because of how players, coaches, and more were not following the protocols. Number 7. Dan Orlovsky's safety. One of the reasons that the NFL can be a hard place to play in is because you need mental awareness for everything that's going on, and there is a lot going on in every single play. Enter Dan Orlovsky, an NFL commentator now, but once upon a time he was a quarterback who, well, let's just say he got embarrassed a lot. Back in 2008, in the early part of what would eventually be an 0-16 season, Orlovsky showed a lack of awareness matched by no other player in league history. With the Lions backed up on their own goal line, Orlovsky attempted to elude pressure and escape the pocket. He did so by running out of the back end of the end zone for a safety, which made for this glorious photo, including a Vikings player seemingly laughing at this happening. Notice how he's still looking downfield while the ref has already signaled for a safety? Yeah, not the best moment ever for Orlovsky, and another embarrassing moment for the Lions in a season that was full of them. Number 6. Buddy Ryan versus Kevin Gilbride. NFL coaches are expected to act with a kind of decorum that players are meant to look up to. They can get angry, loud even, but never violent. Well, except when Houston Oilers defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan and offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride were involved. Ryan had previously voiced his displeasure over Gilbride's tendency to throw the football late in games. Then, in the 1993 regular season finale against the Jets, after quarterback Cody Carlson fumbled a snap before halftime, the two got into a verbal altercation, which ended with a Ryan punch straight to Gilbride's jaw. The incident somewhat diminished the accomplishments of Ryan's defense in Houston, although he was chosen as the Arizona Cardinals head coach in 1994, largely based on his work with the Oilers. Still, this was a major faux pas, and something the NFL was certainly embarrassed about. Number 5. Trying to salvage a blocked field goal. In Super Bowl VII, Garo Yepremian did not make any field goals, but he did ruin the undefeated Dolphins' chances of capping off their remarkable season with a shutout. He lined up to attempt a 41-yard field goal and give the Dolphins a 17-0 victory, but the field goal was blocked. Rather than falling on the ball, he tried to pick it up and throw it downfield, only to see it slip through his hands and into Mike Bass's grasp. Bass returned it 49 yards for a touchdown, putting an end to Miami's shutout. Now, granted, the Dolphins still won the game and obviously remain the only undefeated team in NFL history, but that play was just, well, bad. Number 4. Bounty Bowl. On November 23, 1989, the Philadelphia Eagles defeated Dallas by a score of 27-0 on Thanksgiving. However, the game will always be known as Bounty Bowl for the post-game allegation from Dallas coach Jimmy Johnson that Philly coach Buddy Ryan had taken out a bounty or price for knocking a player out of the game on Cowboy quarterback Troy Aikman and kicker Luis Zendejas. Johnson's claims were hard to deny considering Zendejas, a former kicker for the Eagles, left the game with a concussion following a hard tackle by Eagles linebacker Jesse Small. Ryan hardly denied the allegations, and during the rematch 2 weeks later, dubbed Bounty Bowl 2, Eagles fans responded with their own bounty in front of a nationally televised audience, specifically targeting anyone they could hit with snowballs, ice, and beer, including Cowboys coaches and players, Eagles coaches and players, referees, and even the broadcast booth. Number 3, Tony Romo's Bobble. Tony Romo is arguably the best Dallas Cowboys quarterback since Troy Aikman, which honestly isn't saying much considering who they've had over time, including Dak Prescott, who is good, but is injury prone and doesn't always live up to his own hype, which also applies to Romo because despite being a great quarterback in the regular season, he was not the best in the playoffs, and his embarrassing blunders were a part of that. The Cowboys were set to win a 2006 NFC playoff game against the Seahawks on a field goal late in the game. It would have been a 19-yard field goal attempt, but Dallas quarterback Tony Romo bobbled the snap and tried to run for the end zone. He came up short, and Seattle won 21-20. Now for the Cowboys, this would be a sign of things to come, because Romo would never be the guy to lead them to an NFC Championship game or Super Bowl, and something always happened to make the Cowboys lose. Truly embarrassing for the quarterback of America's team. Number 2, Heidi Bowl. Now we're going way back for this one, the AFL. Yes, it's not the NFL, but it counts because of the teams involved. On November 17, 1968, the AFL Championship game was held between the New York Jets and the Oakland Raiders. The final score was 43-32 Raiders, and that wasn't the embarrassing part. What's embarrassing was that the Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in the final minute to win that game, and no one on the eastern side of the US even saw it. Why? Because with the game seemingly over, the broadcaster of the game, NBC, decided it would be fine to cut away and play the movie Heidi in its place. So imagine fans' shock when a scrolling marquee arrived and noted that the Raiders had actually won the game. Talk about embarrassing. Number 1, Saints vs. Rams, no call. You could put many moments at the top of this list as the most embarrassing, but this one stands as the worst in our minds because it had to do with a no call that caused not only an embarrassing moment, but an embarrassing end to a critical game that resulted in an embarrassing Super Bowl that later resulted in an embarrassing rule change. It was just bad, okay? A few years back, the New Orleans Saints seemed destined for the Super Bowl and were facing the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams were putting up a good fight, but the Saints were a few yards away from a touchdown and sealing the game. Then, as Saints receiver Tyquan Lewis was readying for the ball, Rams player Nickel Roby-Coleman blasted him before the ball ever touched him. No flag was thrown, and the Saints lost the game. Now, obviously, there is always going to be a "there should have been a flag" comment by someone, but in this case, everyone admitted that there should have been a flag. The fans, the announcers, the experts, and even the Rams player himself. He was shocked there was no flag. The Saints and the fans in the NFL as a whole were furious about this, but refused to change the outcome or redo the game, which they did have the power to implement. As a result, the NFL next season made it possible to challenge a potential or called pass interference play. It lasted 1 season and was so buggy they rescinded it. As noted, the Rams went on to the Super Bowl to face the New England Patriots, and it was one of the worst and lowest scoring Super Bowls ever. What's more, that was the closest eventual Hall of Famer Drew Brees got to the Super Bowl in years, and he's now retired. That no call cost him and the Saints a chance at true glory, and it is embarrassing that this happened to them. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the embarrassing moments that have shaped the NFL in the not so positive way, and as a result left a bad taste in many people's mouths? Do you remember seeing some of these moments live and thinking, what are they doing? Which of these plays or moments do you personally feel was the most embarrassing? Or do you think that there is another embarrassing moment that we may have missed? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we will see you next time on the channel.